Hello, everyone, and welcome to this next episode of Coding with Dom.
Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of the Getting Started with Ruby series.
So today what we're going to be covering is loops, functions, and a couple other things.
Yeah, so last time we left off by printing out some stuff to the console, like, putsing hello world, and some other basic functions. But today we thought it might be fun to cover, loops and some of the more core essentials for programming in any language, really.
All right, so Dean, it looks like right now we're doing a puts on Hello World. So can we run that really quick again, see how that goes?
Yep. So if we just type ruby space hello underscore world.rb, which is the name of our file name right here, and we run it, you'll see that in the terminal.
Okay, great. So it's great that we're able to do a puts on Hello World, but what if I wanted to put something 3 times, like kind of like a loop? How would you do something like that?
Well, I mean, my first attempt would probably be just to print it out 3 times and see what happens.
Right.
But
So
of course,
I'm familiar with a principle in programming called DRY. Don't repeat yourself.
Okay, gotcha. Well, if you want to do it like that, we can just wrap this puts hello world
3 times, right?
Yep, in a loop, and we can just type 3 times do.
You just type 3 times. Wow.
Yep.
Amazing.
And then if we type end at the end here, because anytime you have a do block, you need to end it. And it'll do the same thing as
Perfect.
writing it 3 times.
All right, that's great. What if we wanted to reference iterator variables? So for instance, I want to say, hello world, we're running this 1 time. Hello world, we're running this 2 times. Hello world, we're running this 3 times.
So if you wanted to do an iterator like how you have it in a language like Java, where you do for, int I equals 0, you can do something similar here by just putting I inside of some pipes. And then we can do what we did last time and use the pound symbol and the braces and just put that variable in there. And now if we run this, you'll see hello world 0, 1, and 2.
Awesome. That's great. Now, let's say we wanted to iterate through a range. How do we do something like that?
Okay, so we can pick a range to work from, and we'll start off with something like a greater than or equals to. So we'll say like number 1, while it's less than or equal to number 2, do something, right? So for this, we can pick 2 to 5 dot each do number. And then in here we can say puts number is now number. And if we run this, you can see that this runs, it sets number equal to 2, then 3, then 4, and then 5.
Okay, so it goes throughout the range all the way from 2 to 5.
Right.
So I'm noticing for your example, you said less than or equal to number 2. But what if we want to say something like strictly less than?
Well, if you want it to be strictly less than, we can just add another dot here. And now it'll run just from 2, 3, and 4.
Awesome. Simple.
Right. But, of course, we can take this a little bit further. And if we wanted to, and I'm going to remove some of this so that we don't cloud our console as much. But let's say we want to start at 0 and we want to go up to 10. And we want to do a step size of 2 each time. I'm going to comment that out so nothing breaks. For this, we can do 0.step 10, which is we're starting at 0 and we're going up to 10. And our size is going to be 2. And then again, we can do .each do, range, and we can say something like range is now range. And when we run this, we expect it to go 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And there we go. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so, this is all great, but here we're sort of doing all of our logic just from top to bottom in the code. So I think it might be fun to cover something that's a bit more like what you would see with functions. If you want to define a function in Ruby, it's as easy as just typing def and then the name of the function. So let's say we want to put hello world here, but we don't want to have to, write this entire block every time. We can just say something like def hello world, puts hello world, end. And then if you have a loop, Like let's say we want to do something 3.times do. In here you can just say hello world. So you're going to 3.times do, and then you're just going to call this function every time you go through this loop. So if I run this, you'll see hello world is printed out 3 times.
All right, that's great, Dean. Now let's go change this up. And for 3 times, let's go put the iterator, and then let's go puts the iterator.
Okay, so we can start off by just saying do I for the iterator. And we'll just say I is now I. And then we can run this.
Perfect.
So here we see I is now 0, 1, and then 2.
Now let's go ahead and square the iterator.
So for this, we can just say puts I asterisk asterisk 2. And this is Ruby notation for squaring. And if we save this, we should see I is now 0, with 0 squared being 0, 1 squared being 1, and 2 squared being 4.
Yeah, but Dean, let's go put that in a function instead.
Okay, so for that, we can come down here and say def squared, and we'll make the argument a. We can then say, let's return a asterisk asterisk 2, end. And then up here, we can call something like squared, and then pass in I. And of course, these parentheses are optional. Now, if we run this, we'll see that we're running into an error here for undefined method squared. Now, why do you think that is, Dom?
Gotta move it to the top.
Right, so I think this is probably an issue with us calling this function before we've actually declared it. So by having it above this 3.times, it's already been declared, and now when we run this function, we have the same functionality as before, it's just dry.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and make something a little bit more complicated now.
Okay, so let's get rid of what we have here, and let's just start with a clean slate. Why don't we try to do something like getting the odd numbers out of an array?
Great. Well, let's go ahead and define the array first.
Okay, so we can start by saying my numbers.
Let's do 1 through 5.
Is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Great.
We'll just format this a bit better. Okay. Now we can define our function, and we'll call this get odd numbers, and it'll take in an argument. We'll just call it numbers.
Nums.
Or nums.
That works.
So the first step here is going to be creating our array for the odd numbers. So for this, we'll say odd numbers is equal to an empty array.
So we're going to go ahead and fill this up with the odd numbers.
Right. So every time we find an odd number in nums, we want to put it inside of this odd numbers array.
Cool.
Now, we're going to do a new type of for loop here that we haven't covered before. And that's just using for to create an iterator like you would in any other language. So here we can say for the number in our nums, we can do something. So for each number, let's say if this number mod 2 does not equal 0. So let's
then
say,
we add it into odd numbers.
Right. So let's say you have a number like 3. You take the modulus of that. So 3 mod 2, this is equal to 1, and that does not equal 0. So we know that this is an odd number. So in this case, we can say odd numbers dot push number end. Because we have an if statement, we do need to end it. And then we also need to end this for loop. And then down here, we can just return odd numbers. But of course, this is Ruby, so this return is, optional.
Very cool.
So what do you think is going to happen when we run this file?
Well, we first have to call the function.
That's a good catch. So we're going to call this below our get odd numbers function, so it's already defined. We'll just say get odd numbers, and we'll pass in my numbers. And then we probably want to say, let's put these numbers out to the command line. So now if we run this, we get 1, 3, and 5 back.
Awesome.
And considering our numbers was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that looks correct to me.
Very cool.
Okay, so that's going to do it for this part 2 of learning Ruby from scratch. I think we learned a lot today with if statements, for loops, and functions. And hopefully next time we can take a look at some more advanced topics.
Hey guys, I really appreciate you for watching this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.
Have a good day.